proposals have been requested and received from financial institutions offering to enter into such loan agreement. And whereas after review of all proposals received, it has been determined that the best and most favorable proposal is that of Piper Sandler and Co. of Des Moines, Iowa, and whereas it is the intention of the Board of Supervisors to enter into a loan agreement in accordance with said proposal dated April 5th, 2022, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Warren County, State of Iowa, Section 1, that this Board of Supervisors does hereby accept the attached proposal of Piper Sandler and Co. of Des Moines, Iowa, and takes additional action to permit the entering into of a loan agreement. Section 2, the chairperson and county auditor are authorized and directed to proceed on behalf of the county to enter into such loan agreement, to negotiate the final terms of a loan agreement, to take all necessary action. I'll take all action necessary to permit the entering into of a loan agreement on the basis favorable to the county and acceptable to the purchaser, and to proceed to meet the conditions of this accepted proposal.
Thank you, Megan.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution as read.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? It is tremendously easier to have Megan read multiple paragraph resolutions and then make a motion to accept the resolution. I prefer that. Maybe we can do something like that with maybe we can do something like that with a consent agenda. All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
McIntyre? Aye. Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, motion carries. All right, good morning, David. Number 2 on our agenda today is consider award of contract ID 91-C091-138 for bridge replacement PPCB on G64 Highway, Stone Street over South River Branch with possible action.
So as you described, this is for bridge replacement, Stone Street, just east of R45. Engineer's estimate on this project is $700,000. We received one bid from Herberger Construction for $870,486.55. That is almost 25% higher than the estimate. The weight limit of that bridge, I'm just going to state some facts here, is currently 15 tons. It hasn't dropped as fast as some other bridges in the county. So I think we have a difficult decision to make here today. Our office is going to recommend rejecting this bid. So if there was a condition where the weight limit was 6 or 3 ton or closed, I think we'd move forward or want to move forward. It's still going to be, obviously up to the board. The other kind of fact of finding here is we only received one bid. If I received more than one bid, even just 2 bids, I would probably recommend to move forward. And because there's that uncertainty in today's market with what the pricing is doing. I can't really speak on whether our estimate's right, wrong, or indifferent, but the facts are that the price is 25% higher. We got one bid and the bridge still is at a 15-ton rating.
What was the engineer's estimate? 600?
700,000 rounded.
I think we met at 825.
Came in at $870,486.55.
Okay.
And by rejecting it, it would just move it to a November letting and we'd still relet the project. So it depends on which way we want to roll the dice.
Do you think prices will be cheaper then, or?
We don't know, but we would hope we get more than one bidder at that point, I would say. So I could be wrong, but I like to see projects get competitively bid. I've never rejected a bid in all my career before, so this is kind of a difficult conversation to have. And I'd be completely fine if you wanted to accept the bid also. It's 25% higher, but.
How's the workload going forward right now?
For contractors, our office is kind of steady with workload right now. We still have more designs to push out, but
So if this was on your radar this summer, it wouldn't be an overload, you would be fine.
no, it's packaged and ready to go. We just have to resubmit it. It goes through the state for letting, so we'd submit it to the state. If we do reject bids, there's some hoops we have to jump through to, send out different notifications, but basically the bid gets destroyed and no one ever sees it again, I guess. Because the unit prices themselves are confidential. Because if they were revealed, then it would be at a disadvantage to, basically to Herberger, because another contractor would kind of see the numbers they bid at. So if you decide to reject bids, essentially the bid gets destroyed and we relet in November.
We're talking R45, so.
And Stone Street,
Yeah, it's on Stone Street, on the gravel portion.
mostly agricultural. I mean, what's the heavy tonnage on there? Grain trucks?
Yeah, mostly agricultural would be the heaviest. I don't think you can hardly get a fully loaded concrete truck across it either. There is a detour around it. Is that correct, Brian? There's still a long detour around it, so
There it is. They can get around it.
that'd be another reason to move forward, is if there wasn't a way around, we would move forward. So I guess I look for certain conditions in my mind, and if those aren't met, then, if it was a dead end road, move forward. If the weight limit's 3 tons, 6 ton or close, move forward. If we had competitive bidding, move forward, but we don't have those conditions met in my mind.
Well, I've always trusted you in the past, so I'm gonna continue that trend.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not wrong in November, but we'll see, I guess, if that's the path the board takes, or and if you want to move forward, our office is completely fine with it. It's cliche, but we're kind of on the fence when we're 25% higher.
I trust and share your instincts with just one bidder. I mean, that's ultimately a concern. I've been through this in projects where there's one bidder and they can put any margin on this that they want and say, well, under these conditions, I'm gonna put a high price on, and if we get it, we get it, and if we don't, we don't. Just the whole aspect of it not being competitive, leads me to believe that I think your instincts are right, and I would trust your recommendation for that reason, for sure.
And if the weight limit's not dropping any faster, again, we can't predict how fast these drop. If we have to relet it again, that's another option. November, if it's not favorable to the county, may have to relet it one more time, but I don't know, it's a difficult decision. I've never had to do it before, and all the time I've done this, and
I concur with my colleagues, I have faith in you. If it wasn't for some alternative routes, and then it's at 15 tons, I mean, we have bridges that are less than 15 tons in the county.
yeah, that are on the 5-year plan that we're gonna talk about soon.
Yeah, so if you've got to prioritize, that in combination with the one bid, I mean, it would make me feel better if there was 3 bids and this was the low bid and all of them were kind of bunched together.
Mhm.
And that tells me that's probably the price, but when you're 170,000 over what our engineers are estimating to that and those other factors, I'm fine with, following suit, they're doing, so.
So I think the way to move forward is, because the resolution states that it's resolved by the board to accept the bid from Herbert Construction in the amount of $870,486.55 and award the associated contracts to the same. I believe that would be the motion, and then you would just vote nay if you wanted to reject the bid. I think that would be the easiest route
That would
to
be
take,
fine.
rather than rewording the whole resolution.
I'll make that motion as David just read.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre,
Nay.
Peter,
Nay.
DeCook.
Nay. Okay, number 3, I will make a motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. We are in public hearing. Today's public hearing is regarding the 5-year construction program with possible action.
So I'm gonna, before the period of public comment, I think it'd be wise to just step through all the projects. This year was an odd year for us, where we'd like to have prepared the 5-year plan sooner for comment. However, due to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act kind of being still in motion, we had to wait from the state to hear how we would actually fund these projects and what type of programming we'd use. So basically it went back to 7 or 8 years ago, where we funded things at 80-20 with federal aid, or and then on off-system routes it's still 100%, but the swap program's going away. And all us county engineers out there were receiving these instructions in mid-March to late March. So we couldn't physically prepare. We knew the projects we wanted, but we couldn't physically prepare the funding amounts and the matches until just recently. And that's why it took us so long to post it on the website. It's been on there a few days. I'm not sure how many people had a chance to look at it, so I think it's best I just step through them all, and we'll go from there. So in the accomplishment year, fiscal year 2023, we have a total of 2 projects listed currently, which is asphalt resurfacing on R57, about almost 4 miles north of Highway 92 towards Spring Hill. We have asphalt resurfacing in Liberty Center. It's covering the west-east route in Liberty Center. Since these projects were pushed to this fiscal year, we're still kind of trying to decide in our office for the north-south locally funded route, whether to chip seal it or do more asphalt on that, but that's something, since we had more time to figure it out, we've been internally discussing that. The third project I'd like to add to this fiscal year would be the Stone Street Bridge we just discussed. So by making the motion you did previously, we will go ahead and add the Stone Street Bridge project to fiscal year 23, so that'd be the third project that year. And then in fiscal year 24, we have programmed the County Highway R57 bridge over North River at $1.6 million. We haven't received any further documentation or agreements on that, but that one was awarded federal funding through Cindy Axney. Currently, it's held up with Iowa DNR, so there's some gray area there, but just for everyone's knowledge, that was part of the Cindy Axney federal funding award. So hopefully that goes through, and then something could take its place. Fiscal year 24 again is 180th Street, or 180th Avenue, excuse me, just south of G76 near Lacona. It's programmed at $700,000. It's a bridge replacement. That one dropped this year to 3 tons. And I believe, is that one the Pony Trust, Brian?
That's a pony.
So it's one of the ones we need to replace because they're called fractured critical bridges. Not that it's unsafe, but that's, we all know the I-35 incident in Minnesota, that was a fractured critical bridge. They just go through special inspections because they have that designation. So they're nice to get off your system. Fiscal year 25, the next year, is a bridge replacement on 20th Avenue over Painter Creek. $700,000 is programmed. It's a 10-ton bridge and it's also narrow. Same year, fiscal year 25, is a bridge on Pierce Street, but also over Painter Creek, so in a similar area around R45 there. That one's down to 3 tons currently, and that's programmed at $400,000 in fiscal year 25. And then fiscal year 26, we have a shared bridge with Lucas County. We've been in correspondence with them to try and replace the bridge on our county line on Wyoming, just east of State Highway 65. That one's been closed for a few years. We programmed $900,000 for that one, which they would also match the 900,000 that year, and that seems high, but we see what prices are doing. And then in the last year, fiscal year 27, 3 more projects. We have an asphalt overlay from Lacona to Milo on S23. Program in the last year, 4.8 million. And then we have a bridge project, Wyoming Street, again, but this one would be shared with Clark County, and it's programmed at 300,000. So this is still that county line, but we share with Clark and Lucas to the south. And then the final project listed on the 5-year plan in fiscal year 27 is the resurfacing of Scotch Ridge Road from 65-69 to Carlisle city limits. And that's programmed at 3.2 million. And that could also use different funding, which would free up more dollars to other roadways.
So if we get that bond passed, those 2 would come off and.
Yeah,
that-
2 of the roads listed were on the bond that we've been discussing at various work sessions.
I think it's prudent to keep them in your 5-year plan.
Oh, yeah.
You're just putting a whole lot of eggs in one basket, assuming it's something to pass that may not.
Only if, yeah.
Sure. I did have a question. I won't pretend that I know about some of the bridges that, are on the list, and I think, I trust you, so I'm good with your priority. The one thing that I do hear frequently about is 10th Avenue, R35 that we sort of share with Madison County, and I know that we have a 2080 agreement where we're, correct me if I'm wrong, we're sort of in charge of the maintenance and care of the southern portion, and Madison's sort of on the hook for the northern portion of it. It's the northern portion of it that seems to be highly, highly traveled as people keep, building homes close to West Des Moines and growing, and that road's bad. Have you had any communications with Madison County on sort of a permanent fix for 10th or 35, or are they?
I haven't approached them, nor have they approached us about adding that to the 5-year plan. We did just replace a bridge on that road, and I think that's part of the equation. If there's 2 bridges with weight limits, and we just replaced one of those. And then there's another, bridge to the south, Brian, that's also weight limited, so.
The one to the north is limited. And, before you'd want to pave the road, you would probably need to repair or replace that bridge.
I think a lot, and some of the talk was just paving maybe the first 2 miles, also kind of around the polo fields areas. We're open to discussion with Madison County. We haven't been approached by them either. And
Okay. I was just wondering if we could do that. I know that
and then we just need to shift maybe some other things around, but
it puts us in sort of a tough bind to be like, hey, this is, our 2080 agreement says you, but.
and I agree with you, it's a need. And that's why I think the bond's so important, and us applying for other funds like the Sidney Axne federal funding. Because if these things like the bond and these other funds are used, that just frees up money for the exact type of project you just mentioned, where it'd be great to pave that road, but, the 5-year plan, we're trying to prioritize, from worst to best, and that'd definitely be on our radar if we can get additional funding like these federal funds and bonds passed in the county, we could hit those roads.
The pot's only so big.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta prioritize. Okay.
So that's kind of my rundown of the projects, and I believe we're still in public comment, so if anyone
We are.
wants to comment.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to comment? If you would, please come up, state your name, your address, and you got about 3 minutes.
Marilyn Hollerman, 1957 Drake Street, Carlisle. I just hate to keep harping on something all the time. Doesn't take any musical talent for that, but anyway, back in 2011, S-23 between 92 and 5 was slated to be overlaid. Somehow it's been dropped off, and I keep waiting to see if we are going to come back to it. It's in bad shape, and you kind of drive like a snake going down the road to avoid bad holes. County repairs it, but sometime I would like to hear that we are going to overlay that and fix it so that we have a better travel. It carries a lot of grain trucks because they go up to Heartland, over to Avon, and traffic is increasing all the time. We'd like to see that put back in the plan. Thank you.
Again, Mary, that was S-23 between Highway 5 and.
Yes, it's Palmyra Highway. It's
Okay.
S-23 north.
92 to Palmyra.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And when they redid the bridge at Hartford, the state gave money to overlay the north half, and that's how that got overlaid, was with money because they were doing the railroad bridge and they closed, and they paved what is G14 into Hartford and overlaid because that was key to it. And that's why that was overlaid, and that is why we got the pavement into Hartford. But the rest of S-23 and even the north part that was overlaid then is starting to have problems. So I would like to have that considered. If any money happens to come along, we could use it.
Thank you.
And that's also, I believe we discussed this at a work session. If we move forward with a bond, that would be the 5th project. So if you say the bond's 15 million and bids come in very favorably and we can do a 5th project, that would be kind of the, I don't know how it would work out. Never done it as a bid alternate as a whole project, but that would be quote unquote your bid alternate. You know, just to be able to spend the full bond amount to hit one more road, so.
Thank you.
So it's on our radar.
It's on our radar, it's not listed. The county did drain tile the whole section of road to help with some of the pavement issues, which is just less money you would spend on an asphalt overlay because that's some of the prep work you would do before that type of project.
Are there any other public comments, either in the room or online? This doesn't rise to the same level as S-23 or 10th Avenue or a number of other ones, but I will make my pitch anyway. Beardsley, which we split with Des Moines, would be something that if Des Moines ever was active or wanted to entertain a nice cost share, that thing's pretty highly traveled from Fleur to 80th. 80th was paved and nice, but strip of about a quarter mile is large potholes every spring, but then they come and cold patch it and we temporarily fix it, but it wouldn't be the world's largest project, but it's one of 2 main corridors for Norway for travel. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if at some point one of those, that probably a quarter mile or half mile, whatever it is, got some attention, but we share it with Des Moines again. Those projects are shared, so you'd have to have some more buy-in, but.
I think we could reach out to Des Moines and ask if they have any future plans for the road and get back with you on that. I know they've been good to work with on patching it.
They have. They did come out this spring and patch it. And it's not, I'm playing the world's smallest violin here for folks, and I get that. There are some areas that need some real attention. And they're usually within a couple weeks or a month or so from winter season, they're in there patching. But it just looks to me as though that road is deteriorating. So at some point, if Des Moines wanted to play ball, I think it'd be worthwhile. Because I'm sure there's, I don't know, 5,000 cars that probably hit it a day or something like that. I mean, it's a lot. So,
We'll at least reach out to them and see if it's on their radar. Hopefully it is, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, maybe they would like to develop some of Des Moines that touches Warren County on that north part, or haul a sewer line up there and bring in some commercial and some additional tax base. That would be nice. I didn't hear it in the plan, but if you're listening, Des Moines, we would welcome that. Since you annexed into the county there, it would be nice to have some valuation to go along with it. Anyways, all right, that's all I have. Last call. I'll make a motion to end our public hearing on the 5-year plan.
Second?
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Do we need a motion to adopt the 5-year plan? I'll make a motion to adopt the Warren County Engineering Department's 5-year construction program plan.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, David. Thank you, Engineering Department. Number 4 on our agenda today is Grand Lodge of Iowa discusses Cornerstone Lane ceremony for the Warren County Justice Center. Morning, sir.
Good morning. Craig Davis, Grand Lodge of Iowa, Secretary, Grand Librarian there. I wasn't sure how many I'd have to print out of these, but put a printout together, kind of some of the things we've done in the past. Share here. All right, a couple of weeks ago, we got together over at the Justice Center to discuss a Cornerstone Lane ceremony that the Grand Lodge of Iowa has performed for over 175 years. For those of you who don't know much about the Masons preceded Iowa as a state. We were here prior to Iowa, when Iowa was just a jurisdiction out there, so. And then most of you have heard of the Shriners. So to be a Shriner, you have to be a Mason first, so. The Masons each day contribute about $2 million to charity each day to help kids and help people with eye problems, you name it. They've got the Shriners hospitals, and there's also a dyslexic center out in Davenport right now that they have. So a lot of times you'll see here in Indianola, you have Warren Lodge, number 53. It's over by the fairgrounds, on the west side of the fairgrounds. And that's who we're kind of working with to put this ceremony together. So on June 29th, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the ceremony will start at 1 o'clock. I'm not sure what the plans are for prior to that for lunch, but I think that somebody in here is paying for lunch. And then, so the 1 o'clock. So what we try to do in this ceremony, we incorporate the supervisors, we incorporate the county prosecutor or county attorney, and we also have the bagpipers have agreed that they'll lead the procession in, so it's a nice procession with the bagpipers. We'll have the veterans will carry the flags in, and then we'll have our commandery who will have a color guard. They'll have the big chapeaus on and everything. It'll be a big fancy to do, and we'll have a lineup. So anyone from the Board of Supervisors who would like to speak that day, or anyone else, I need a list of who's going to speak that day so I can get that on our docket. The ceremony takes about 30 minutes, except for when we get done, it's how long you all talk. So up in Boone a couple of years ago, we laid cornerstone up there at their courthouse, and we had 5 attorneys, and it took them about 2 hours, so plan accordingly. So no 5 attorneys, right?
No.
All right. So during the ceremony, you'll see the guys with, the commander with the chapeaus, they'll be carrying swords. We'll use corn, wine, and oil to dedicate the building. It's a really kind of a neat ceremony. We'll also ask, we're gonna talk to Channel 13 and see if we can get the Channel 13 news there. And it'd be nice if the local area could get the local newspaper or whatever to come down and cover the event. And then one of the other thing that we kind of talked about was Cornerstone, what we were gonna use for Cornerstone and the plaques. So what I gave you are some ideas for plaques. If you kind of go back about midway through the packet, I think it is the one from the Carroll County Sheriff's Office that we just did earlier this spring, or no, it was last fall. And that's the one that they had made. I'm sure you guys have ideas of the plaques that you want to have made and installed in the building. There was some talk about a rock being placed out in the northeast part of the land there. And then there was also some talk, so when we do this, sometimes we have a casket and we put it in a vault and bury it with contents from things from today. So it'll have like a list of who the Board of Supervisors are, who's the president, you know, who's the head of the Masonic Lodge and all the officers, and then any other artifacts you want to put in there. So I think we talked about maybe reaching out to the casket company here in town or somebody to see if they may donate that. And I know it would be hard to bury that somewhere on the ground, so we talked about the one planter right out front, since it's already excavated right now, that we could set it down there and just cover it up and put a marker there that that's where it is. So in 100 years, when they want to open it up and find out what happened back in this time period, they will be able to do that. So, and then also we, if there are any other caskets from the previous building or anything like that, if we want to open that up and put them on display inside the building when you're giving tours that day, later that day of the facility, that might be a good thing also. So, and we hope to, with the speakers and everything, that we hope to be done by 2 o'clock, and everybody can take tours of the facility and enjoy that beautiful building that you have erected over there. Did I miss anything?
I think you got it. Yeah. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate
Sure.
the support of the Masons. When do you need information back from the county on agenda stuff and who's speaking and that type of thing?
Sooner the better, but I know it changes, so.
We'll bring that, maybe I'll ask if Aaron will put that on a work session, and we'll try to make those decisions in our next meeting and get you some direction. And you've got Jamie Morowski's, you're in touch with her, and she knows how to get a hold of you, so
Yeah.
we'll get the information turned around back to
Yeah.
you.
And if you'd like some programs made up, we can make up programs, so. And knowing that information, we get it all put together, so. Yep.
Well, I'm an attorney, but I can assure you I will not.
Well, I'm
We will
sorry.
not
I
have
didn't-
5 of us. We will not speak for 2 hours on a June 29 heater in the summer. 30 minutes between everyone will be plenty sufficient in time.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
Yep. No, well, I appreciate you, for giving me a little time today to talk.
Thanks
to
for
you.
being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Number 5 on our agenda today is consider April 22, April 2022 Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation with some action.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Val Cameron. I'm the Child Abuse Prevention Council Coordinator with the Short Years Partnership. It's been a while since I've been in person, so thank you for having me today. I left a couple documents for you to review of how you can support our efforts for April. We have a lot of community partners, and the activities are listed on the one-page document that's being passed around. The other document is a document that comes from the Department of Human Services. It has information that's relevant to Warren County compared to state of Iowa data, and I will talk about that number in the proclamation. And then I've also left pinwheels to be distributed. Pinwheels are a sign that you will see that every child deserves a happy and healthy childhood. There is signage that's on the City of Indianola's electronic sign. We appreciate that support, as well as many pinwheel gardens that will be distributed at the school districts around the county, as well as the libraries. And so I will now read the proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas in 2020, 116 children were abused in Warren County, and whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of Iowa. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families.
Now, therefore, I, Aaron DeCook, do hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Warren County, and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families. Your motion to adopt the resolution? And I'll make that motion to adopt the resolution as read.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for what you do. May I ask a question of you?
Yes.
Al? Is that 116, is that number trending up, down, or sideways?
It is actually down. But again, we feel with COVID, the lack of oversight is probably the effect of why that is happening. So it'll be interesting to see. The numbers usually come out in about a week or two, so for 2021, so we'll see what we look at right now. But yeah, it's down about 24 from the previous year, so.
Do you know what happened in 2014 and 15 to make that drop so significant?
I do not know. Any other questions?
If you have an opportunity, if you kindly email the board when those new numbers come out too, I'm curious.
Yeah, I can do that, great.
I'll still tell you it's 116 more than it should be.
That's right, one is
Whatever
too
the-
many.
Or whatever the real number
Yep,
is, so.
yep, and if I could get a photo op when we're done, I would appreciate that too.
You bet.
Thanks,
You bet. Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Number 6 on our agenda today is consider proposed map plan from Legislative Services Agency, LSA, for updated Board of Supervisor districts with possible action.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, we're getting to the end of it finally. We've been at this for several months now. And we got the final LSA maps from the state, and I think you've all seen them. You've had a chance to go over them. One of the priorities that the state has put is we have to have another public meeting once those approvals have come down from the state. And we had that meeting yesterday at 10 o'clock. In attendance was Tracy Vanderlinden, Don Bowman, Brandon Lane, Marilyn Halterman, Skip Phillips, Michaela Brobst, Darren Heater, Drew Merrifield, Allison Summerfield, 2 other citizens. I didn't get their names, I apologize for that, and myself. I believe they were probably from the Greenfield Plaza area. I have 2 letters from citizens that I'd like to read. The first one is from Marvin Grace, and he writes, "Dear honorable members of the Warren County Board of Supervisors, you folks, through your redistricting committee, got redistricting right, or at least as right as can be done when you are looking to the future. This is not true for the Secretary of State's plan. It is not right. The city's upcoming and Norwalk's future, their interest and their competitiveness, must be along the I-35 corridor interfacing and competing with West Des Moines and Madison County. The coming Norwalk area will be much more urban in nature than rural as they developed. Of necessity, they must move to the south along the I-35 corridor. Going to the east will only waste resources they need to compete in the corridor. The Greenfield Plaza Hills of Coventry area currently and in the future is aligned along the Highway 65, 69, and east of the highway. They are more like Carlisle and the southeast corner of Des Moines than they ever will be of the I-35 corridor. That's their interest and where they will compete. Please stand up for yourselves, your redistricting committee, and the Warren County residents you so ably represent by rejecting the Secretary of State's poorer plan than you developed and accepting the plan you, through your able committee, originally developed. You know Warren County much better than the Secretary of State. Accept your plan, please. Respectfully, Marvin Grace. I have one other letter presented to me yesterday from Marilyn Halterman and voicing her concerns in regards to the LSA plan. Warren County Supervisors. As a member of Warren County Redistricting Committee, it is very disturbing to see how the LSA has again redesigned Warren County. The Redistricting Committee discussed the issues in Warren County, and it is unanimous among the committee that all supervisors should have a much unincorporated rural area as possible, even though all three represent the county. The Warren County Redistricting Committee has grassroots, live here, and know the issues of Warren County. The LSA plan, 1, almost makes Greenfield to an island. 2, makes District 1 urban with very little rural. 3, increase the area of District 2 by an entire township. 4, District 2 wraps close to Norwalk city limits, east, south, west, and north, around the entire county to the south Lynn Township line. Our plan was more compact and would serve the county residents much better. The redistricting plan, 1, it is clean and compact. 2, better division of unincorporated areas. 3, smaller travel area for District 2. 4, better representation for Warren County residents. Our numbers were better. Warren County overall range 45, range 1.0025. LSA numbers were overall range 126, range 1.0072. I understand the numbers. We worked with the numbers the LSA used differ in Des Moines 74, Greenfield 1, Jefferson, Lynn, Lincoln 1, Lincoln 2. Therefore, I still feel the Warren County plan we submitted could work even with the small number changes in the plan and any adjustment to precinct description. I have a question in regards to the description of Otter. Should we add excludes the portion that lies in Indianola Precinct 7? Also, White Oak, should we add excludes the portion that lies in the Indianola Precinct 7? Indianola city limits extends into Otter and White Oak Township. In closing, I would like to thank the excellent redistricting committee. It was a pleasure to be a part of the committee. Also, I cannot say enough for the great support staff, Kim Sheets, Brandon Lane, and Don Bowman for all the help they gave this committee. We could not have done it without you. Thank you. Respectfully submitted by Marilyn Halterman. I also spoke with Skip Phillips, and his biggest concern was regarding the farm population and the possible loss of the opportunity for their voices to be heard during elections and keeping Greenfield 1 as an unincorporated district. We did clarify to Skip that Greenfield 1 residents still vote as Greenfield 1 residents. Just because they vote in an incorporated precinct, there will still be ballots available for unincorporated residents. And we call that a split, within the precinct. The precincts that are located in they are located in does not change their actual voting logistics. Have a spreadsheet prepared to explain the differences in these numbers between what we originally presented to you that went to the state for approval and how they sent them back. Overall, the changes in precinct ratio after the adjustment is unincorporated actually does go down by 12 persons. The incorporated goes down by 17 persons. And I just want to remind you that the redistricting committee does not set the supervisor districts. That is not what they do. They actually, the purpose of the committee is to draw the lines of the precincts within a specific ratio. They did a spectacular job. We spent a lot of time on it, especially with the time constraints that we had. We've been back to the table, looked at different things. What has actually happened within those changes from the LSA, if you look, and Brandon has maps, he can probably explain some of this if you have any questions. On our original numbers in Greenfield 1, the unincorporated portion was 1,074, and it had dropped down to 901. And instead of reading through this, I did condense it down over to the right. Under UNI, that precinct, under the incorporated, did go down by 173, and Jefferson by 8. Lincoln 1, it went down by 60, but in Lincoln 2 and Des Moines 74, it went up by 72 and 193. And then to the right of that, I show why those numbers changed. In our mapping that we submitted to the LSA, there were some non-consistent lines, which means that area wasn't contiguous. It wasn't all put together. Our lines came through and down and connected. But then there's this portion up here where there wasn't a house that actually pulled it in. So that's why they changed those maps by those little bit, by those small amounts. With the consideration of what the public has brought to us in that public meeting, I understand their concerns. But the proof is in the numbers. Those precincts, I mean, overall, unincorporated changed by 12 persons. The incorporated changed by 17. We are within 8 weeks away from primary elections, and it does bring issues up with our candidates, where they're gonna vote, how that's gonna happen in their different districts. Also, I would like you consider when making your decision on approving or rejecting this, we do have a plan in the future that the Board of Supervisors numbers may change. These precincts may change if your plans change also. With all this, I mean, it's very unfortunate that we had such a time crunch. We usually have a year and a half to do this. We had just a matter of weeks. So I would like to suggest that you do approve it. If you have any more questions, I mean, I'm more than happy to answer it. Brandon's here.
To approve the LSA changed districts?
Yes, because they do the supervisor part of it. It's they're the ones that draw the supervisor districts.
Okay, I understand the population numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but to me, I'm also concerned with Republican and Democrats.
Okay.
I know my area is predominantly Republican, and when Greenfield Plaza and Hills of Coventry was moved over, it seemed like it was a fair representation of it. Then you add more Republicans to mine with the LSA version, so that part I don't appreciate. I don't like that at all. I understand the boundaries of precincts, so is there some way we can, bring, what is this precinct here?
Jefferson.
Jefferson back in line with 92, and then, that would be Des Moines 73, back over.
Jefferson has 9 splits. Jefferson precinct involves Martinsdale School, it involves the city of Bevington, it involves Martinsdale St. Mary's School, it involves I-35, Norwalk, and Indianola, I believe. As for those numbers, if you wanna pull that in, I don't know what district you would offset to stay within that ratio. And I don't have the political numbers in front of me. I know I pulled them at one time, so I can't voice what that difference is. It didn't seem like there was much, but every vote counts, and I understand that, especially if someone's gonna vote along party lines. So I really don't have an answer for you in regards to that and how you vote, if that's something that we could have brought to the state earlier, maybe,
As soon as I found out about that. so
Yeah,
I-
yeah, I
let you guys
understand.
know.
I know, everything's crunched. Yeah, I don't know in regards, because we don't, again, set the supervisor districts, and it should be a nonpartisan type issue anyway in regards to the census, and it's the population part of it. Sorry.
See, I'm less concerned with the politics of the proposed districts or the other one. Those are gonna be what they're gonna be. Where I am more concerned is that if the board stays at 3, the original map had, I'm not gonna call it my district, but the, District 1 had, you know, a fair amount of folks living in unincorporated Warren County. And if it consolidates to just be more of a, it'll be like the old Indianola district, and now the county will have 2. So if the board stays at 3, you're going to basically get 2 of the 3 supervisors, whoever there be. I mean, everyone knows I'm not running, but you're gonna get 2 out of 3 that are going to be almost exclusively incorporated, pretty well represented, and paying taxes thereupon. Folks from what I will call Norwalk coming, or that Norwalk school district, even the folks that live in the rural zone, it's not super rural up there. And then you're gonna get Indianola, and then the rest of it's going to be unincorporated. You're gonna have 1 rural, and you're gonna have 2 mostly incorporated districts. And so I really preferred the first map that I thought our team did an excellent job on. It just makes, and yes, we all represent everyone, I get that. So if someone calls me from Lacona, which is about as far away from where I live as you can get in the county, and has an issue, I'm not just ducking them or dodging them. I'll hear them out, I'll speak to them about whatever. But if you just have 2 districts that are almost all pavement, city amenity folks, that doesn't give a very good flavor when you have some rural issues like, I don't know, a wet spring, the need for gravel, some of the issues that are in unincorporated Warren County. So I really preferred the first one. It seems to me like Maryland and the other letter writer did as well. I balance that with the fact that we've got primaries coming up very, very soon. And so like if you lived on one of those in-between zones, I don't know what district you run for, and if you wanted to run. I don't know exactly how that works, but can you talk to me a little bit about, my preference is to reject the LSA plan. If in the event that we do that, then it's my understanding that the LSA has sort of a final, take it or leave it, this is what it is.
I do have a letter from Heidi. I
Yeah.
contacted Heidi because my concern was with timing also.
She's the Secretary of State, isn't she?
Yes, Heidi Burns,
Her attorney.
and she is, part of the redistricting. And in her email, and I had asked her, Warren County has received from the LSA, their approval, but our public hearing is Monday, and then our Board of Supervisor meets Tuesday for their final approval. If they send it back to LSA, what is the projected time for LSA to get it finalized? And her response was, at this point in the redistricting cycle, there is no longer is an option for a second plan. The board will need to approve the plan submitted to them. That's all I got. It wasn't very helpful.
Why even send it to us?
I don't know.
That's really, that's
That doesn't even make sense to me.
patently unfair.
Yeah. That's-
Here's your choice,
Yeah.
my way or
Well, that-
reject my way, and then
Yeah,
it's my way.
I apologize for that, I don't have any
I'm
control
gonna
over that.
reject it. Doesn't much matter, but I'm a big fat no.
And just keep in mind, you know, our voters are looking for lists, our candidates are looking for lists. We're still in the process of reprogramming, moving each and individual resident into the different precincts. And again, our job as a committee was at a precinct level.
And it wasn't the county's responsibility to get the census data 6 months past when we normally do. I mean,
Right, right.
I am frustrated to say the least.
Yes, I think we all are. I think we all are. It's been a road to hoe.
Well, thank you for your presentation, I appreciate it.
Kim has done a great job. I just want to say I appreciate all you've done.
We put in a lot of overtime, and the committee too. Marilyn brings, you know, so much information, you know, to it. And if you're concerned again about the unincorporated and the incorporated, again, the spreadsheet dictates it's 12. And the 12 in the districts of the unincorporated was Lincoln 1 and Indianola 5. There was an issue there in regards when the committee did their original map, it split a district. That's unallowed. So when Indianola annexed that part of it, it was done after the census. So those 12 people, which would be their difference, actually had to go back into the other precinct. So it didn't split that legislative district. It comes down to the population. The numbers of the population did not change between the unincorporated and the incorporated.
I get it. It's more, I suppose this, it's more reason for the voters of this county, if they're desirous of having a more balanced board in the future between incorporated and unincorporated Warren County, then they'll have the option to go to 5 supervisors, and by doing so, you will get a split, whether that's a diagonal or a vertical slats down the thing or some other cut up of it. But if you wanna have a board that has some rural exposure, maybe even lives on the gravel road or has some of the things like, you know, rural mail delivery or whatever, some of those issues that people in rural Warren County have, perhaps it's another reason to think about how you want your future board to look. Otherwise, what you will have in the future as Norwalk moves from 13 or 14,000 people to 18 or 20,000 people, as Indianola grows, what you're going to have is 2 folks that live inside our largest population centers in the county, and that will be your board going forward. So, okay, I'm still gonna reject it though, but I don't think it matters.
What does it do to the auditor's office in your election process if this board rejects it? I mean, ultimately,
Ballots
we should
should
have some
all-
considerations around that.
Absolutely, ballots should already be in print. We've already got candidates looking for their specific precincts. We can't do that yet. I mean, it's all, everything will be at a standstill in regards to that. With the programming, with, you know, getting we do have our polling sites set. We do have that all done so that we can get our election workers in line.
There's just so much to it.
We
there's
can't
just
even
so much.
start.
It's,
We're already probably
we're
2
running
weeks
out of
behind
time.
time,
it's
in time, along with your printers.
You are out of time. That's what Ms. Burhans was telling you. You're out of time.
Through no fault of our own, that's the sad part.
And you know,
Yeah.
I totally understand that, but this is where we are today. And those who are running deserve to have the lists that they need to run. They deserve, the citizens need to know where they're going to vote. Is it perfect? No. Is it what the committee sent up? It's not, but it's up to the LSA to determine the supervisor districts, not our committee, unfortunately.
It's just unfortunate. All of the
All the
work,
way around.
all the hard work, everything. It's just,
We shouldn't have a committee just give it to the LSA and let them draw the map.
Yeah.
That's what ultimately happens anyways.
I mean, that just makes me.
Feel bad for the folks on the committee that
Yeah.
effectively wasted their time working diligently for hours and hours for free to come up with maps when it doesn't actually matter. It's gonna be a real beacon for future volunteers to step up in 10 years.
Yeah, that's my big consideration.
Exactly.
So if the board does it 2-1 approve, the auditor wants to move forward with what we have for efficiency reasons or legal reasons
Yeah.
and others.
Please.
It doesn't much matter.
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
You may, Marilyn.
In answer to Crystal and the party affiliation, it is against the rules for the committee to look at anything as far as partisan is concerned, any that nature, where you live, where any supervisors live, that is against the rules of the bipartisan committee.
I'm not saying you guys did
No,
it. I
no.
feel like LSA did some
Yeah.
gerrymandering. That's just my opinion.
And to the extent we're out of time, this was done exactly 10 years ago. The LSA drew the plans, not what we sent. This seems to be a habitual thing with them evidently, for some counties, I hope not all. But that is what has happened, and I understand we're out of time, I understand that, but the county knows and the supervisors know best. We tried.
You did a nice job.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Marilyn.
thank you so much, the other committeemen.
Any other discussion?
What, if this board rejects this, what,
Fair
what's that-
question.
what does that mean to how we get started in our primary elections, and what does that mean to, I mean, do we really have an option? If we reject, no one knows.
The pressures, we're already getting phone calls. I can't send walking lists for candidates. I can't give our printers who's on what ballot yet. I can't, I mean, we're, like I said, we're already behind in that aspect, just waiting for what needs to be done.
May 18th is the first day people can vote absentee. It takes time to get the ballots put together. The gals have them ready, sent to
proofing.
the printers, but
The back and forth.
there's just a big process of checking and double checking and, and just getting it done. You know, the printers, I don't know how many states are probably having elections at that time, so that takes time.
And with that in mind, we do have 2 new employees running the election. Allison is learning the ropes. We got Miranda, and of course that takes time with the train. I'm there, Tracy's there. I don't anticipate any issues. It's just a matter of, there's always an integrity issue. We got to have time to do our due diligence. We gotta have time to do our proofing. We gotta have time to make sure that we've got Joe Public's house in the correct precinct. We gotta have time to make sure that Warren County goes forward as the public expects us to do.
It all comes down to time, and we're running out of it.
And I hate to put that time in the state's hands, get it back to them, and have it be 3 weeks. They too know the crunch, but they also have 99 counties that they're looking at that I am unaware of what their circumstances are. We are the 11th largest county in this state. We have, 53,000 people in this state that are counting on us to do what we can to make it work.
I think by rejecting it, we just make an unfair and bad situation even worse.
Without a promise that it would change.
And when if we start jeopardizing our election integrity, I think that's where we would really get into, some bigger issues that we don't really want to get into. Can I make a motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve the LSA district map as they had sent to us.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the board?
I highly reject that. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm under duress.
Yeah, I agree.
The county staff will be pleased to get 2 votes on it, and so it'll yeses, we vote no, or I vote no, or if we had 2 no's, that the state will take our rejection and shoot off a 1-line email back to us saying, here's the deal now. I don't think it'll take 3 weeks, but they've already made up their mind, so. 2 votes will speed it along. We've got a, no, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
This is really difficult, because I value our auditor's office and their time.
Well, there is no time with the primary. I get it.
It's just pathetic, absolutely. Ugh.
If we go to 5 at some future point, does the committee need to draw their own map for the 5?
The
Or do
committee
we just
will-
rely on the state to draw the map for the 5?
Do we just need-
Yeah, I'd have to look into that because it
Just cut
also
out the middle
determines
person.
if, the plan changes. Cause currently we're Plan 3. You know, people vote within the district that they live in for that supervisor. If that plan changes along with it, that's gonna change the dynamics. And not going through something that myself, I don't have the personal experience to bring, to advise you on that.
I'm just saying if the voters do decide to go to 5, I don't know if anyone really wants to serve on that drawing of the map thing. The state's just gonna pick it anyways. Something to think about. All right, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Roll call vote, please.
McIntyre.
Yay.
That too.
Yeah, yes.
Aye.
Peter.
No.
DeCook.
Thank you so
Thank
much for your
you.
time and listening to what we had to say, and we really do appreciate it.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
committee for all the
Appreciate
work
your
you all
time.
did.
Kim, great job.
Sorry. Number 7 is consider builder's risk insurance coverage for 1195 Nevada Street, Indianola, Iowa, 50125 with possible action.
This insurance coverage was recommended by Rudolph here in town. Something I've never heard of before, but seemed like it was a necessity. Basically to cover during the window of construction, if a disaster happens, the building's covered. Similar insurance, if the building's already built, it's just covering during that time period.
We did this for the courthouse as well.
Okay, cool.
Yes, we've had a big
Great.
project that
This
was
is
done.
pretty,
It's not ours until the final day, so.
The standard procedure.
okay.
Premium in the amount of $10,000.
Not an insurance expert, so
$10,576 was the premium.
I believe so. Maybe get it from that in front of them. You have it in your packet.
Well, there's a total term premium of $10,576 in here.
So,
And I'm sure that's
If it-
based on the information she gathered,
Right.
Penny gathered from us over email.
so
timeframe.
if it doesn't get built within that time frame, it will obviously be more.
We'd have to extend it.
Yeah, we've had to think about that on the Justice Center too.
Well, considering the tornado just hit part of our county, not but 3 weeks ago, it's not something where you wanna have $5 or $6 million facility in some partial stage of completion and roll the dice for, a small fraction of 1% of the cost. So I'm supportive of it, and it's standard procedure.
It'd be foolish not to do it, in my opinion.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adopt builder's risk insurance coverage as stated in our packet for the upcoming shop site.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Number 8 is consider fiscal year 22 budget reappropriations with possible action. Megan.
So this is just moving, the 38,000 that was budgeted for payroll, under the auditor's budget. Since payroll was actually moved under the Board of Supervisors, it's just moving that budgeted amount, over to the supervisor's budget.
Are there any questions for Megan on the reappropriation? Okay. I'll make a motion to adopt the budget
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Alright, number 10 is consider approval of ARPA funded projects.
I have 3 of these for you this morning, 3 resolutions. The first is approving use of ARPA funds for purchase of blinds for Warren County Administration Building. Be it resolved that the Warren County Board of Supervisors hereby approves the use of ARPA funds, $83,000 for purchase of blinds for the Warren County Administration Building. Jamie Morowski has led this project. She has received bids from, I believe, 3 different vendors. The vendor that was selected is the lowest and provided the best service to go along with installation of the blinds.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Just for the public's benefit, about half of the blinds in the administration building are non-working. They're 20 to 22 years oldish. The other half will probably follow suit shortly, and that pricing was pretty strong considering that they're also doing some work for us over at the Justice Center blinds. So it was actually pretty strong. All right, motion second, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
The second resolution is for approving use of ARPA funds for purchase of chairs for the boardroom. Be it resolved that the Warren County Board of Supervisors hereby approves the use of ARPA funds in the amount of $5,500 for purchase of audience chairs for the Warren County boardroom.
Is there any discussion?
I think we've got plenty of that.
Is there a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution as read.
Second.
Discussion? Nope. Roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
The last one is approving use of ARPA funds for purchase of equipment, supplies, and,
You didn't vote yet.
I'm sorry.
DeCook.
You'd abstain. I'll change my vote, I'll change it aye. Aye.
I apologize for
You're
jumping
fine.
over your vote there.
You're fine.
The last one, approving use of ARPA funds for purchase of equipment, supplies, and laptops for election machines in the amount of $110,000. This was a request that was received quite early on for this upgrade to equipment. We needed to get that before you because obviously primary elections are coming up.
And we do have a plan for primary, but this election equipment is more suited for November general, is that right, Tracy? Rob?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the ARPA funds for election equipment.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
No.
DeCook.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Okay, thank you, Don. Number 11 on our agenda is receive and file reports. We have reports from Veterans Affairs and the Humane Society. Do we have a motion to receive and file those reports?
I'll make a motion to receive and file the reports.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Received and filed. Supervisors report. I'd like to go first.
I go first. There's been some new things happening on the Justice Center, and I'll get into these in more detail in our work session the next time, but we are in a pretty tough spot with a elevator inspection that should have been taken place by now, and we're struggling with getting that inspection taken care of, so that's in turn creating a problem with delivery of furniture. We were scheduled to get a delivery of some attorney's offices furniture today, and we had to reschedule that delivery because the inspection on the elevator is not done. The elevator's in good shape, it's operational, but we cannot use it until it's certified. So we have a meeting set up for tomorrow. with our architect and our construction manager to push that inspection along as intensely as we can. But it creates a backlog issue because the following week, we're planning to get additional deliveries that we may or may not be able to get. And all of a sudden, our productivity around getting moved into the Justice Center is of concern. And we're working on that. But there's been a couple meetings and more meetings to come. In regards to the probation and JCO spaces that we had approved, things are going along quite well. If you get over there sometime, you'll see steel frames already in place in those offices and electrical work being done. And so that's encouraging that they have gotten started on that right away and are moving along. I've attended and had shared in some committee meetings about the 911, basically Warren County communication systems. There's some questions around structure of how things should work, and I would anticipate that somebody, whether it be our sheriff or our dispatch manager or myself or Crystal or somebody at some point, may have some recommendations on some restructuring of a committee and some discussion around maybe ways to improve how they make decisions and how we make decisions and how we fund things. And so that'll be coming, I think, as something that'll become a priority in the next couple weeks or a month. I've been heated up in some meetings and probably spending significant amount of time on affordable housing, and we're trying to get a proposal put together for a work session prior to the April 12th deadline, and I think we'll have something, and I think the board will be kind of excited about what we're thinking, but we'll see. I also had gotten a call from a board member at Kayakota, and there's some discussions about the integrity and the functionality of the current Kayakota building. I think we have heard the last couple of years that the building, we need to try to do something with Kayakota. There was some discussion about whether the county would have space for some type of structure or some real preliminary discussions around that. And I'm kind of stuck in my brain on how to proceed there, but I wanted to make the board aware that, you know, the Kayakota board, they're calling the county and they're asking for some assistance and trying to figure out a plan, so there'll be more to come on that. And I thought the facilities tour that we all went on was really an eye-opener for me, and I wanted to thank Supervisor McIntyre for, you know, putting all that together and making that a priority, and of course for Supervisor DeCook for joining us and working with us on that. That's all I got for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Crystal.
Okay, met with zoning office staff and zoning director different times throughout the last almost 2.5 weeks. I had an impact board of director meeting, several meetings with our board. We had some specials, we had our budget hearing and closed sessions. The Iowa Public Health Leadership Academy, our 3rd year meeting, learning more how the board of supervisors and public health board, how they're set up, why they're set up, and more information about public health. That's really, really interesting. Also, we had a meeting with our engineer, his assistant engineer at the Balloon Museum concerning Jewel Street, which runs in front of the balloon field, and had a joint Warren County 911 and Board of Supervisors meeting. We went on our spacewalk, as Darren mentioned, concerning our buildings and our space needs in the future. No decisions were made, but we definitely have a broader idea of what some of our buildings' capacities are, or non-capacity. But that brought up a good thing, our building across the street, Temple Building. We resolved the issues of entry yet.
I haven't been able to,
I
so.
don't know if our key now works or not.
I did see the, manager of that, entering that building yesterday, so he has a key to get into it. So that was kind of encouraging that there is a key.
Okay, thank you. All right, I did meet with, Troy of Emergency Management, and Rachel of the Ward County Economic Development Corporation. And that's my report.
Thank you, Crystal. My report, I had 2 HERDA board meetings. The aforementioned work sessions, special meetings. My colleagues have kind of highlighted what we've dubbed as a spacewalk, which kind of has a cool ring to it. But effectively, what we did was we had a presentation. It was a wonderful presentation of all the property that Warren County owns and or leases. Because we'll have some large decisions to make as people transition from the administration building to the Justice Center. And so that just puts some different things in play. And so we want to be prudent with how we utilize our space and our leases to be as efficient as possible. But it was a good meeting. I will tell the public that at the bottom of the west annex is a tunnel that runs like through all of the buildings, and I found that interesting. I don't know why they did that, but there's a tunnel, and it's kind of neat. Fun tidbit. Attended a Warren County Economic Development board meeting. Also then met with the director as a follow-up. Went to the Justice Center on a visit in between meetings and had some discussion with our architect and sheriff. Discussion with our IT director. And assisted with some language that I think went out to all department heads yesterday. The IT department does have some responsibilities and duties over at the Justice Center, so their time will also be responsive, but it just might not be send an email to IT or have an issue of it. Probably all hands on deck pretty quick. So I just wanted to get that in front of our other department heads that there might be a little more leg than maybe historically, but it's they'll still be responsive. Attended a child serve gala this weekend. Have another event coming up Saturday for the Garden Gate Ranch. Held a community meeting in Norwalk. Pretty well attended. Almost 20 people came out, and maybe another 10, possibly plus, reached out regarding an idea. I will be bringing it before the board. It's very, very small. Will not be large. It will be a small request on the 12th as well for a newer group that is partnering with Hometown Pride. I believe we've set a name of Grow Norwalk in response to what I would contend is probably thousands of trees on the northern corridor of Warren County that got destroyed in the tornado. The southern part of Norwalk and the rural unincorporated part of tell the public, for those that know me and my colleagues certainly do by this point, I am rarely angered in my role here as a supervisor. I won't say that I'm never annoyed. I'm annoyed plenty of things sometimes, but I'm rarely angry. I'm actually frustrated and angry about how much time was poured in for our redistricting committee, and I know my colleagues feel the same way. I just think that is patently unfair to have volunteers spend their time, their resources, and what was there, a per diem of some piddly mileage, and I mean, these people volunteered to do a job. They did a great job. They really worked hard, and to have, local rule, or home rule, it's just gonna be what LSA decides in the state, and I don't think that's right. So I am angry about that, but it doesn't appear as though there was anything that we can do, and I certainly understand our auditor, and our legal perspective of, we have a primary in 2 months, and 2 months and a couple days, so I get it. It's just it's very unfortunate, but anyhow, so I do apologize for my anger. I wasn't probably super professional there, but I'm not happy. And that will be my supervisor's report. Is there any input from the public? All comments today will be limited. Lastly, I do want to say thank you also to Indianola for letting us use their facilities today. Certainly don't have to do that, but it is quite neighborly. Our boardroom should be up and running for our next meeting, so it's coming along. But I do appreciate Indianola extending an offer to let us host our meeting. Okay. Public input. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. Board will not take any action on the comments due to the requirements of the open meetings law, but may do so in the future. No public input will be allowed for any of today's agenda items. Is there anyone in the room or online who would like to comment publicly? If you would, you just state your name and your address and we'll hear you. Seeing none, our next meeting date will be held April 19th, 2022 at 6 p.m. I anticipate that will be at the board, the administrative board meeting room. That's our evening meeting, and we hope to see people there. We do hold that at night, not because it's convenient for our staff or the supervisors, but because we feel as though some folks might not be able to attend a 9:30 to 11:15 Tuesday morning meeting for those that might be employed during the day, but they could potentially